Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back for the Everything Ravens podcast, episode 13. My name is Logan. I'm the host of this podcast. I run the Instagram account at everything_Ravens, which is the biggest Ravens fan page community on Instagram, sitting at almost 38,000 followers as we start this recording. So we're back. So I gotta say, we've skipped like 3 weeks, but yeah, we have Brooks and Kyrie on.
What is up, guys? Brooks here. Good to be back. Yeah, we had a short little hiatus. A lot has happened since then. A lot of big Ravens news in the past week. Excited to get into it.
Hey guys, glad to be back and just getting ready to talk about some Earl Thomas drama, Dez Bryant. Maybe that was a catch, maybe it wasn't a catch. Just talking about all the Ravens news and glad to be back.
Yeah, guys, I apologize for such a long wait for this. I know a lot of you have been waiting for another episode, and it's been like 3 weeks, but we've all been like super busy with school, so we finally found time to record, so that's good.
Yeah, and it's kind of good that it all happened now. We were all moving in, we're moving around. There was a lot of Ravens drama moving around, and the dust has finally settled. Earl Thomas will not be a Raven this season. We've discussed it on previous podcasts. And, it sort of climaxed the drama. All of his offseason stuff hit this week, and we found out the news. The Ravens released Earl Thomas earlier this week. Guys, what are your takes?
I think it's something that had to be done. I think with Earl Thomas, it's been brewing for a very, very long time. Obviously, week 4, he showed little to no effort on that Nick Chubb play, got into a fight with Brandon Williams after the game. That kind of started it all. And then obviously he was talking all that trash before the Titans game, guaranteeing us the Super Bowl. Ended up becoming Derrick Henry's lead blocker. And then obviously the offseason drama with his brother and now this fight with Chuck Clark. I feel like with Earl, it's just been brewing for a long time. And Earl just kind of proved to be a locker room cancer in his one and only year here. So I think it was just time. The Ravens had enough. They cut him.
Yep, you mentioned all the issues from this past season. And then as it came out this week, as more started to unfold, we heard the Ravens roster team leaders were very active in speaking out to the team owners, to the front office, saying that they did not want Earl Thomas around anymore. There was rumors about him being late to practice, not getting along with teammates on multiple other occasions than the ones you listed, skipping walkthroughs. This whole situation seems like it has been brewing for a long time, and this was just the final straw. And it better happened before the season than right when we get into it. It gives the Ravens a short window to prepare, but obviously a blow to the roster, a starter this late in the offseason, can be detrimental.
Yeah, I'm just extremely disappointed. I was a big Earl Thomas fan, and when we first signed him, I was like, okay, this is like really great. I never thought this would happen. We let go of Aguero, who I loved. So, okay, we got upgraded safety. It's going to be good. And even though this past season, some people say it was a little bit of a decline for Earl Thomas, even though he still earned a Pro Bowl nod, and still was mentioned in the top 100 players. I thought he still did good. But like you guys said, locker room cancer, just, going back and forth with Chuck Clark, even John Harbaugh said that that's normal, that's expected in training camp, but the fight just went on way too long. I even saw one report that said he went to go get his stuff and he cursed out the coaches, and I don't know if that's true, but just multiple reports about how much of this guy was a cancer in the locker room. And Baltimore has one of the strongest locker rooms in the NFL, I believe. Just listening to Shannon Sharp talk about it the other day. I mean, this is a locker room that has Reggie Lewis, Ed Reed, those type of guys lead this locker room before. And now, Terrell Suggs, I mean, it's always great leadership there. The players kind of run the locker room. So if the players and leadership saying, hey, this guy got to go, the Ravens and Eric DeCosta is left with no choice. It's going to be very interesting to see who they sign. I know there's a couple options you guys can discuss about, but really disappointing and comes at the very worst time because to me, this is Super Bowl or bust year for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you're talking about winning a Super Bowl, any small hitch in the road to that can be extremely costly. Earl Thomas, this is not the first time he has had issues with his organization. He had some problems with the Seahawks. We gave them the benefit of the doubt because the Seahawks have had problems with their players in the past, especially veteran ones, not treating them the way they felt they deserved to be treated. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, we all remember him flipping off Pete Carroll as he was carted off the field. I, too, was super excited about this signing when it first happened. You talk about leadership in the locker room, how the Ravens have a history of that. I thought Earl Thomas would add to that. It actually went the other direction. And then you have to look, I hate giving them any credit, but we saw this sort of unfold last year a little bit with the Steelers. Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, these super talented players, they chose to get rid of them and look for alternative options, and it looked like the right decision. And then all this stuff started coming out about stuff that was sort of buried by the team, these small incidents in the locker room, on the practice field that not everyone knew about. And we're seeing the same sort of thing happen with Earl Thomas, all these small incidents that add up to just the point where it's hard to play with this guy.
Yeah, I think going off of your point with Earl Thomas is the Ravens have kind of seen this firsthand with the Steelers for many years with Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. They had a lot of locker room trouble, and even the Browns last year. You can't deny that either of those rosters had a ton of talent because they did. What really hurt them was poor locker room chemistry, and the Ravens have always prided themselves on locker room chemistry. It's something that they take very seriously, and they think if someone's being a problem in the locker room, they don't care who you are. Earl Thomas is a superstar, and they still cut him. So I think that's really sending the message that you have to be a team player or else you're gone.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things players respect about the Ravens organization is you hear when players leave, they still talk very highly about the culture here. Eric Weddle's a great example. We had a big Monday Night Football game against them last year on his new team on the Rams. He spoke out that week and said he loved his time at the Ravens, even after getting cut and released by us. A lot of players speak very highly, and it starts with respecting the players. Our players talked to our front office. They clearly didn't mesh well with Earl Thomas, and our front office listened.
It makes me kind of sad now because I just think, wow, maybe because it's, use that money, address other areas and could have kept the beard. That could have been really nice. But this also tells me the Ravens must have huge faith in Deshaun Elliott, who has suffered some injuries. I know there's been a lot of talk about him coming out in camp, but to me, I'm still kind of on the defense just because of the injuries. And I think the better option right now, honestly, would be Tony Jefferson. Try to get him back in the door, try to sign to a veteran type deal, friendly type deal, just someone that knows the system can come right in and play. Because like I said, this is a Super Bowl bust. You don't want to take a big gamble to me on a position like that, especially now that Earl Thomas left. I just feel like get Tony Jefferson in there, or maybe Elliott could work out, but just to me, the injuries are a big concern for me.
Yeah, and that kind of segues into my next question or point is, we've kind of talked about how this move was an off the field locker room based decision. Now, how do you think it will affect the Ravens on the field when the secondary was supposed to be the strong point of our defense and now there's a gaping hole in it?
I mean, that's kind of a point I brought up the other day with one of my posts is how we're going to replace Earl Thomas. I think there's multiple options in play there. Obviously, Deshaun Elliott would be the presumed next man up. You could have Jimmy Smith, who's been practicing safety a little bit, move to free safety, but he's inexperienced there. So who knows how that would work out. You also have Anthony Levine and Geno Stone, even though Geno Stone's a rookie, so I doubt he would start. And then you could look at other options such as bringing Tony Jefferson, Brandon Carr back, two veterans who know the system, who could step in right away, no problem. Or you could look in free agency, like a guy like Eric Berry, Eric Reed, Logan Ryan, who was on the Titans last year. He's a corner, but he said he plays safety. So I think the Ravens have a plan. They wouldn't have released Earl if they didn't have a plan. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that free safety spot plays out.
Yeah, I do think there are options out there. You went over a lot of the top ones. I also think the Ravens have a lot of faith in their depth at the secondary. I think they hope Tavon Young can come back and play at a high level. He was a slot guy. He could maybe switch to a little bit more of a safety role. He was kind of a ball hawk for a little bit while he was on the field and healthy. And then again, you mentioned Anthony Levine. I think they're going to rely on him early in the season a lot as these young guys sort of learn the position. I have some doubts about Jimmy Smith being able to adjust to the safety position. And then my main concern is how will this affect our cornerbacks? We had a great secondary last year. Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, they were able to play press coverage and gamble because they trusted the guys behind them to not allow big plays. With young guys and experienced guys in the secondary, Chuck Clark now having to lead that safety unit. Will Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters play softer coverage? How will that affect their statistics? Will they be able to gamble and try to jump picks as much as they did last year? Causing turnovers was kind of a staple of our defense. So this affects more than just the safety position. It affects more than just the leadership. It really is going to have a resounding impact on our defensive team as a whole.
Well, I think that one thing that's been proven time and time again is whoever you have out there playing on defense, Wink Martindale's going to get the most out of them. And if they don't produce, Wink will put someone else out there. So I think that's a bit of a comfort there, having him as defensive coordinator and knowing that he can really get the most out of any player he puts out there.
Yeah, I have all the confidence in Wink. And I think no matter what, this defense is going to still be a top 5 defense. It's going to be a threat to any offense. But it is going to be very interesting to see what the Ravens do. I do end up thinking, though, they're just going to go with Elliott. I think they got a lot of faith in him. I know a lot of the guys been talking good things about him. So I think they might bring in someone else in free agency, but I think the Ravens are pretty comfortable with this roster. I know we're about to talk about something else as far as like if they're going to make an addition at wide receiver. But I think Ravens are very comfortable. Eric DeCosta is comfortable, and I feel like they can kind of swim around this.
Yeah, whatever the Ravens end up doing, I always have faith in Eric DeCosta. I've never not had faith in EDC, so he's going to do the right thing. I know he is.
Yeah, and you talk about Eric DeCosta. One of the best parts about that Ravens front office is how well they all work together, from owner to GM to the coaches to the coordinators. They all communicate well. There's a plan for the whole team. So when you talk about that, they have something in set to go into the season. I know it's late in the offseason to be making these on-fly adjustments. No preseason definitely hurts when you're trying to evaluate this young talent. That's why I think they're going to rely heavily on Anthony Levine going into the start of the season and wait for one of these young guys to show that they're ready to step up. My next question is, Martindale did a lot of great blitz things with Thomas this year. Thomas was very good on the blitz. He was good disguising it. He broke down, didn't let the quarterback scramble. A lot of time you see young safeties fly in on the blitz. They're sort of out of control, and the quarterback rolls out of the pocket, and the safety goes by him. Earl Thomas stayed low, didn't let that happen. He was a great spy. So I would wonder if bringing in a veteran instead of a younger guy, like a Brandon Carr, like a Tony Jefferson, to sort of do that. They wouldn't be as helpful in the secondary and in coverage, but someone to sort of take that role so Martindale can still have those blitz packages in place would be a good idea for the Ravens.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens pulled something like that. I know from his time here that Tony Jefferson was a pretty good blitzing safety, even though we obviously know he had his struggles in coverage. He was a good run defender, so I think he's definitely an option there. But like we were talking about with Elliott, I think Elliott learning behind Weddle his first year, learning behind Thomas his second year, he's definitely picked up on a lot of things. So I'm kind of excited to see what he can do as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's pretty clear we can all agree we're not replacing Earl Thomas from a talent level at this point in free agency. But what we can do is try to fill some of the gaps in our defense and replace some of the parts of his game that he brought to us. We're not going to replace all of it, but if we can fill some of those gaps and expose our defense a little less, we have enough talent around already on the roster to hold down the fort for the rest of it.
Yeah, I agree with that point. All right, let's get into the other big Ravens headline, which is the Ravens bringing in Dez Bryant for a workout. This is the second time they've dipped into the Dez Bryant bag. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm going to be a little harsh on Dez Bryant. He got an offer from the Ravens 2 seasons ago, chose not to come to Baltimore because, he didn't think we were a contender. Clay Matthews did the same before last year. Gerald McCoy sort of did the same. And now, 2 years later, he had that injury with that 1 week of practice with the Saints. He wants to come here. I don't know exactly how I feel about it. Certainly, when he was in his prime, he was one of the best receivers in the league, phenomenal at winning jump balls and making contested catches. We could use a goal line target like that. People are underestimating the loss of Seth Roberts, who was a good goal line guy, a good jump ball guy. Hayden Hurst was certainly someone we used on the goal line for throws. This move, to me, bringing him into practice means that I don't think they wanted Miles Boykin to be able to step up more and take over some of those catches that we lost in the receiving core and build upon his season last year. He had highlights at Notre Dame showing he could win those jump balls. They're bringing in a similar type model receiver, working him out. That shows me that they think Miles Boykin is not quite yet ready.
Well, I think the thing with Dez is that he hasn't played a snap in like 3 years, and he's coming off a torn Achilles. Plus, he's over 30, so I really worry what he'll be able to do. But as you said, I think bringing him in for a workout is kind of sending a message to Miles Boykin. I think Boykin has responded well. Boykin has probably been the camp MVP so far. I've been hearing nothing but great things about him. So I think that's really what the Ravens are hoping for. And if they see more out of Miles Boykin as training camp goes on longer, they're probably not going to sign Dez Bryant. I'll be completely honest with you. I think it was just solely a move to try to get more out of Boykin.
I wouldn't mind if the Ravens signed Dez Bryant. I know back when he and Tony Romo was tearing it up in Dallas, I actually was a big fan, the X and everything. But, once Dak Prescott came in, things kind of just went south. I think it's a low risk, high reward type thing because you sign Dez, it'll be probably for a minimum type deal. He cannot be good, but he's still got other young receivers that's going to be, get you the numbers, get the catches. So it's like, okay, we'll still be fine. This is a run first team anyway. They're not going to change away from that. So it's no really big risk, but then high reward because this could be a similar Anquan Bolden, Derek Mason type of vibe, Steve Smith type of vibe. You get a veteran wide receiver in there that does wonders. He brings back his career and it's great for like maybe 2-3 seasons, but I could see that going that way, but I wouldn't mind it. I don't think they're going to sign him, though. I thought if they would have signed him, they would have signed him after the tryout. So I think that was just a little motivation for Boykin. Also, just to see what Dez Bryant has. But you're all right, Brooks. He did kind of give us like the hand back 2 years ago. So I'm not really, clamoring for us to sign him.
No, I agree, and I'm happy Boykin is doing so well as far as camp goes. I had a little higher expectation for him as far as the season went last year in terms of receiving. I think he was an excellent blocker. But when I go down our receiving list, Willie Snead will remain our possession guy, Hollywood Brown will be our speed guy, and Mark Andrews will still be the security blanket for Lamar Jackson. So the role I see Dez Bryant taking is sort of that veteran and goal line jump ball type guy. And I was hoping Boykin could sort of take that role this year. They're using him. I've seen him on slants at practice. I've seen him doing deep balls. I still don't know if they think he can win those 50-50 balls like they were hoping he could.
Yeah, I think another thing with Dez is they're maybe trying to get a bit more leadership into that young wide receiver room. We all know that receiver room's very young with Hollywood Brown, Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay, and James Prochet. Willie Snead is the veteran. And Willie Snead's been around for a little bit, but he's not like a real veteran. He's not been around as long as someone like Dez Bryant has. So I think that's kind of a reason why they could look to bring someone like Dez in. It's just mentor these younger receivers, especially Boykin, who has some similar skills to what Dez has.
Yeah, definitely. And Snead is more of a lead by example type guy in a locker room with a lot of loud voices, a lot of big characters. We have Mark Ingram, we have Lamar Jackson, we have some boisterous people in the locker room. Willie Snead is sort of a quiet, let his play talk for him type guy, and we know Dez is not. He does do a lot on the field, but he will be loud in the locker room. He will be loud on the sidelines. He definitely has some problems that come with him to the locker room as well. He was upset sometimes in Dallas, but the Cowboys have always given a little bit of free reign. I think Ravens, if they bring him in as a veteran, will have him on a tighter leash there. And he won't be a superstar, so he'll have to earn it just like anyone else. But the Ravens have always loved Dez Bryant. If you remember before he got drafted by the Cowboys, we were the pick behind the Cowboys, and a lot of people had us projected to take Dez Bryant. Cowboys took him. We ended up trading out of that slot. We wanted him when he was a free agent a few years ago, and now we're bringing him back for a tryout. For some reason, the Ravens love this guy. We have the roster spots. I think, you do look, Kyrie brought up, why did we sign him right after the tryout? I think this Earl Thomas thing has had our team reevaluating what we're going to do with those last few roster spots. But once all that dust sort of settles, maybe in the next week we'll see them bring back Dez Bryant for maybe a second tryout or just jump the gun and sign him. So who knows?
Yeah, I think just from like a pure depth standpoint, Dez would make some sense because the Ravens need some more wide receiver depth now. Antoine Wesley got placed on IR with a shoulder injury. Chris Moore did something to his hand where he's not going to be able to play for a couple of weeks. And Chris Moore isn't even much of a receiver anyways. He's more of a special teamer. So I think that could play another role in potentially signing Dez is the fact that the Ravens just need way more depth at the receiver position.
Yeah, and I think the Ravens wide receiver depth is going to be fine because one thing, I know a lot of people are hyped about Boykin, but I'm really excited about Devin Duvernay. I love him coming out of Texas. I think he's going to have a big impact his rookie year. I think it's going to be like a mid-season type of thing. He starts taking off. So if Dez doesn't hop on, I think that's fine. I think Devin Duvernay is going to be good. I know Hollywood Brown's going to take it to the next level. Boykin, I'm still kind of waiting to see on him. But I think this Ravens wide receiver core will be just fine. But you did make a good point, Brooks. The Ravens might reevaluate things after Earl Thomas thing kind of got settled and gets settled. So it'll be interesting to see the next couple of weeks. I do think Dez will end up back in the league. Just don't know what team that would be. But like I said, I wouldn't mind if it was the Baltimore Ravens. But I think the Ravens are very confident in this wide receiver core. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just never sign him.
Yeah, I also sort of wonder if this is maybe a Lamar Jackson type thing. He has been very vocal in preaching for the Ravens to give Antonio Brown a shot this offseason, as has other quarterbacks around the league like Russell Wilson. And the Ravens have made it very clear they do not intend to do that. Maybe, this is sort of their settling. Because if you're not bringing on Antonio Brown, at least give Dez a shot. Maybe Lamar wants him in that wide receiver room. I think I see their personalities getting along very well. Maybe that could be something, sort of the settlement after he really wanted Antonio Brown to be brought on and become a Raven.
Yeah, if the Ravens sign Dez, I think the most likely scenario would be to bring him in for camp, give him like a 1-year prove-it deal, no guarantees, and they're just going to look and see if Dez has anything left in the tank, and if he doesn't perform the way they want him to, they could just cut him with no losses. So I think that would be the most likely scenario for Dez Bryant.
Yeah, I mean, it has been the off-season of prove-it deals. We've seen it for Cam Newton. We've seen it for Jameis Winston. Lots of other veterans making that decision, sign these 1-year short contracts and have to really earn it in practice and on the field. It's a copycat league. I think Dez is in the same boat as those other guys. We've kind of been handicapped before by bad veteran signings. Michael Crabtree, we ended up cutting him, losing some. Eric Weddle, we gave him a little bit too big of a deal, cut him, lost a little bit. So I think this is a really safe play with high upside. And if it makes your quarterback happy and it brings in a veteran to a wide receiver room, to me, it really is whether we think we need help elsewhere versus if we think Dez is a good fit.
And speaking of elsewhere, I would be actually more happy if the Ravens, if they do want to sign someone for agency, go after one of these veteran pass rushers. I know Clowney's still out there. I don't know how much he's asking for, but Clay Matthews, who also kind of gave us the hand, I wouldn't mind the Ravens signing him. I think pass rush would be a much more bigger need than a receiver. So they do want to look out for like a veteran presence. I definitely think they should go for the veteran pass rusher. I know they got Calais Campbell and Derek Wolf, but it wouldn't hurt to add more pass rushers, especially now, lacking at safety. I think that would be a good idea as well.
Yeah, I think the Ravens might not sign a veteran pass rusher because apparently Tyce Bowser has just been really, really good at camp. He's been showing out. So I think they're going to give him the shot first before anyone because we all know it's like an old Ravens tradition. Pass rushers always break out in their quote-unquote bag year, their contract year. So I expect the same from Tyce Bowser this year.
Yeah, and I think we could have easily gone pass rusher here earlier in the offseason, but after seeing how our season has unfolded, losing Earl Thomas, maybe needing a little more help in the secondary, that debacle with Michael Brockers, needing a little bit more help on the interior line, especially after I was hoping Daylon Mack could step up, and they ended up releasing him. We have still a few questions on the offensive line, need some veterans in the wide receiver core. Third tight end still sort of up for grabs, even though they brought in Adams. I think the pass rushing situation, even though there was a question all offseason, would the Ravens bring someone in? I think that's going to go on the back burner right now, and they're really going to put all the chips in the pot, hoping that Tyus Bowser and Jalen Ferguson, that two-headed dragon, can take over that other side across from Matthew Judon and combine for some really impressive stats.
Yeah, I think one thing the Ravens are doing too to try to avoid going after an edge rusher is, like I mentioned in other pods before, they've really beefed up the defensive line this offseason. They obviously had Brandon Williams, even though he isn't much of a pass rusher, but they brought in Calais Campbell, one of the best pass rushing interior defensive linemen in the league. They brought in Derek Wolf, who's also a very good interior pass rushing defensive lineman. They drafted Justin Matabuke, who's a very good interior pass rushing defensive lineman. And they drafted Broderick Washington, who isn't as great of a pass rusher, but he's still some solid depth. So I think the Ravens really focused on building that defensive line to help out these young edge rushers.
And yeah, while I do agree those are good solutions long term, and I was super happy with the draft, as you guys were, without rookie minicamp this year, without preseason, I just wonder how long it's going to take for those young guys to develop. So even though we did bring them in, they're not going to make the impact this year I think we were hoping they would make. So some veteran options I think the Ravens were going to look at. Maybe now they don't because, as you said, they do have those roster spots filled. They don't want to give them away, and we need help elsewhere, especially since we're trying to make a Super Bowl run here. You really want to shore up that secondary. All right, I think that's all of our topics for today. Obviously, there was more news. Sorry we missed a few weeks. We hope you enjoyed the top 100 and seeing all the Ravens called and their support for each other on social media during that time. We will be back soon with more Ravens news. You guys have anything to sign off to?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank everyone for tuning in. I know it's been kind of dumb with us not getting an episode out in the past 3 weeks, but hey, we're back now. We plan on still getting episodes out weekly. It's just with college now, all three of us in college, it's a little bit harder because our schedules are a bit more busy, but I just like to thank you guys all for the support and being such huge Ravens fans.
Yeah, I'd love to thank everybody for the support. Keep tuning in. We're going to get right back to how we've been. Great Talk Raven News again. Also, everybody stay safe, mask up, do the right thing, enjoy ourselves.
All right, make sure to follow me on Instagram at everything_Ravens. Also, make sure to follow at Everything Ravens Podcast. It's the podcast account ran by our great executive producer, Spencer Silverstein. The music for this podcast is by at I'm Jack Average on Instagram. Make sure to follow both of them.
Super Bowl out of me. Believe that.